Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey. We are back in
Hey, we're
person. We're back,
live.
Jack.
We're
We're
back.
in person.
Although the
Um,
Zoom's good. So
yeah, no, it's good. Nathan was just around town, was able to jump in, and we thought, out for old time's sake, let's get together
yeah.
and do it in person. But I'm really excited. Today, we're going to be talking about money mindset and not just like the things that have worked, but also the things that have really not worked.
Right, right.
Because like for the people that kind of briefly know my story, I built up one company and we had about $50,000 in the war chest, and or maybe actually a little bit more than that, probably on that one, probably maybe even closer to like 70, 80, 100,000. And I put all that somewhere and it didn't work. And I didn't learn my lesson the first time. Basically did the second thing again, but with a bigger war chest.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about that. But then also like what I'm doing differently now with Algorithmos and NK and how we're building NK. And I want to give a business update. We have to give a business update on
Yeah,
NK
that'll be
today.
good. Yeah,
We've
we have,
got
we
some
have
good
some
stuff.
moving parts. So yeah, for sure. That's
So
good.
money mindset though, I know you had some interesting stuff that you want to talk about, Nathan, and you got this book. Why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Well, yeah. So it's funny he brought up this money mindset, and one book that I read in the past week was The Millionaire Next Door, and it's Thomas Stanley writes it, and it's a really fascinating book because you hear the word the millionaire real estate or the millionaire next door and you think like, oh, okay, it's about this rich guy, and it has nothing to do about the rich guy. It has all to do about if you actually look out in the world and
Mm-hmm,
you actually look at who has built wealth,
mm-hmm,
the majority of those people actually spend, very wisely. They're frugal.
mm-hmm.
They don't have the Maserati and the BMWs that they're showing off. They're not taking pictures of these things because at the end of the day, they understood and they understand that when you save and you invest, you're building wealth through that. So the more that you can save and invest, ultimately, the more that you're going to build your wealth. And so throughout this book, he's just talking about like, it's like you probably don't even know if your neighbor is a millionaire. And they use a millionaire just as a term to say, hey, they've hit this status. And I'm not sure when the book was wrote, but it's really true to the point of, most millionaires don't seem to be that way.
Hmm.
They're down to earth. They're normal people. It's just
And what is this book called?
it's called The Millionaire Next Door, and it's
Who's
Thomas
it?
Stanley who
Thomas
wrote it.
Stanley.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he just goes through and talks about that, and it's fascinating because um, I think there could be. I think most people can be misunderstood, and especially most people that are wealthy, and especially in this culture we live in, that you're questioned for your wealth sometimes as well. Like
Hmm.
if you build wealth, you almost get judged for it in a lot of
Especially in
ways,
certain circles, yeah, for sure.
and that shouldn't be how it is, because at the end of the day, if you're spending it wisely, if you're saving it, but most importantly where you give is probably the biggest
Right.
factor. And at the end of the day, when you look at all those different things, and if your heart's in the right spot and you're wise with it, yeah, you should be able to build that wealth because you try to get the money into the right hands. That's kind of this mentality: get the money out of the wrong hands
Yeah.
and get it into the right hands.
Well, and it's actually interesting to say it like this week, actually, I had to repent and I apologize to the Lord and to Libby because the Bible even talks about how a wise man has stores of choice, is it choice oil? It's like choice oil and food or something like that, like choice oils, but basically that a wise man has wealth. And I
Right,
look at
right.
multiple times that I've had the opportunity to do that and I didn't. I didn't take care of my family. I wasn't, really financially dutiful. Um, in that ability. Another story of investing that comes from the Bible is, when they had the minas, and one guy turned 5 to 10, one guy
Right,
from three
right.
to six,
Yeah.
and then one guy
Yep.
buried it in the ground.
And what did he call that guy?
Yeah, I forget what he
A
called him.
wicked, lazy servant.
Yeah,
Like it's
but
it's
what did he?
crazy.
But I do remember what he did. He created excuses,
Yeah, yeah.
and
He
like,
was afraid. He
yeah,
was in fear.
and then the master took the coin from the guy who had one and gave it to the guy who had 10.
Right, right,
And he said, "To whom much is given, more will be given."
right.
And
Exactly, exactly.
I just look at that, and it's like building wealth is biblical when done right.
Correct.
I'm one of the things that, and I'll circle back on this we talked today, but I've been in Dave Ramsey's book, Entre Leadership,
Yeah, you've
and
been
something he
talking about
says
it.
all the time is that he mentions the fact over and over that the Bible says it's the love of money that's the root of all evil, not
Sure,
money.
sure, exactly.
So it's good.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back into this thought process of when we think of wealth as rich, and that's what this book talks about as
Mhm.
well. It's not so much about being rich, because you can have you can have somebody making $1 million, and they could spend 998,000 of it, and they're left with 2,000, and their
Right.
net worth is very low. But then you could have somebody making $50,000,
Right.
and they save 10,000 of it. Well, who has more net worth after a year? Well, the guy that saved 10. And that's the difference. But most people will assume that millionaire is the rich guy,
Yeah.
and in ways that's what it is. And that's why I think there is a big difference between rich and wealth.
Yeah.
A lot of people put those two together, but it's completely different,
That's
because
powerful.
I think when you think about wealth, you think about honestly, you see stories and stories from a biblical standpoint of all these people that are given so much wealth.
Mm.
And they're some of the wisest men that didn't care about what they had to store up.
Right.
You look at somebody like Abraham, and it's like the guy was just given more and more and
Right.
more and more. But it's because he was doing the right things, and it's like he had the responsibilities.
Right.
And I just think that's what it's about. It's like, when you have more responsibilities, and if you're a good steward of your money, then if you spend it wisely, if you save it, if you give it wisely,
Right.
it's all going to go hand in hand. And I mean, I'm honestly, I'll say it. I'm a living testimony. I don't know why we've had this success, except for I could say that it's legitimately God has a purpose, and I have to treat that in high regards. And it's hard sometimes to get out of that, because you do start thinking about, oh, well, what if I do this, or we could do this?
Right.
And you have to remember, it's like, you got to be careful with your money. That's why, like, losses hurt me so bad. Like, when I lose money, I feel like I wasn't able to do what I was supposed to do with it, and I was a bad steward of it. Whenever,
Yeah.
like, but at the end of the day, we fail, we get up, and we have to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got to do this and this. But anyways,
Well, and I think and I'm going to mention this because we haven't been in the trailer for a while, and that's because I have soundproof headphones, and you can see that because when we do it this way, I have to turn off the AC, and that sucks. But I think a
but
part
we
of
love
that,
you guys.
yeah, we do. That's where we're here bringing value. But with that is we could have gone out and said, hey, we're going to start this podcast. So we're going to buy all the best equipment. We're going to have the best intro. We're going to make sure we have, soundproof walls with an AC and all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
That's not what we have. We're in a 4 seasons trailer that gets hot in the summer. And when we have to turn the AC off because you can't record well and hear the audio with the AC blowing from right up here, it gets hot. Now we're sweating. But it's just real. This is the small steps that it takes, and it takes some sacrifice to be able to build something that's good. And in the EntreLeadership book, Dave Ramsey even talks about how, debt kills cash flow. And yeah, so I think this what you're talking about here is really powerful in this distinction between being rich and building wealth.
Can I ask you something about that?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have a misunderstanding of Dave Ramsey. And I know that there's basically, Dave Ramsey's like, I feel like there's a big wall.
Yeah.
And you're either on his side or you're completely against
he's
him.
polarizing us
And
for sure.
I'm just curious, after your reading, and obviously I know you've done Financial Peace University as well. So, like, and I've read his Legacy Journey book, which absolutely amazing. And yeah, it's fantastic. And, but I would just love to hear your opinion on, like, after reading these books, what your thoughts are in regards to that, just because he is kind of a controversial
here's what I'll say. I'll be honest, this book was just sitting there, and I actually really wanted to read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I didn't want to read this
that's
book.
a good one. Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't find the book anywhere. I wanted to reread it, and he talks about some really good lessons. And I struggle with Dave Ramsey because, being from the real estate world, a lot of what we do is debt.
Sure.
And there's debt, and Dave Ramsey is completely anti-debt. And I had actually forgotten that he started in real estate. And so, but this book was the book that was there, and I was like, you know what, I might as well read something. And digging into it's been really good, and I've really had to even challenge myself in some ways to go, okay, well, if I'm a Christian and I'm following, I'm committed to following biblical based principles and things from the Bible. If this was just Dave Ramsey teaching, it'd be one thing. But when Dave Ramsey is actually specifically referencing Bible verses, unless there's some way that I could specifically say, like, man, I think Dave Ramsey is wrong in this because of another Bible verse,
Right,
it seems
right.
like that doesn't seem to fit together right. That would be one thing. But a lot of what Dave Ramsey says is very scripturally based, and I struggle to, from a scriptural standpoint, debunk it. From a worldly standpoint, I probably could. And so that's caused me to have to really come to this perspective. This is getting a little bit more, I guess, religious, you could say, but come to this perspective of like, I can't let my worldview shape the Bible, but I have to let the Bible shape my worldview.
Exactly. No, that's powerful stuff. And I like how
And
you use that to.
so I've been really challenged. It's been difficult because it's gotten me out of my comfort zone. It's forced me to think, hey, I might be wrong.
Right.
And how do I improve that? But I wanna actually talk about this. Like I think this would be great. Let's talk about what kind of mindset shifts I think would be healthy. What number one, just the mindsets that are in building wealth. But included in that, like the mindset shifts from rich to wealthy, because America is like the richest country in the world.
Oh,
Like
I
I'm pretty sure
imagine.
I've heard. I think it was just the other day. I heard if you're making more than like $30,000 a year, you're in like the top 10% of the world. Something crazy like that. Like we are doing very well as a country.
Right.
Maybe when you put it out on a scale, like there's definitely a segregated, money pockets, but neither here nor there. There's opportunity, but there's opportunity to save. And there's opportunity to build more. So I'd love to kind of break down a couple of steps, maybe like 3 to 5 that we see as like really important aspects of the money mindset. And if we can get, specifically even how to go from being rich, because most of us are rich, to actual wealth, I think that would be really great. What would you like to kick us off with number one?
Oh man, I think one thing that this book talked about that's a practical step, and I would say one great thing is if you could really look at what you make a year, or if you're running a business, maybe it's what you're bringing in per deal or something like that. If you could put down 10 to, it talks about 10 to 20%. If you could start with 10 to 20%
Saving.
saving and investing, and some, you're going to see different things. Derek Kinney, who's an amazing financial guy.
What is his book again?
His book is Good Money, Good Hands. Good. Oh, he's gonna.
It's
kill
the
me.
Good Money podcast, right?
Yeah, and he does a podcast, but he talks about it as well. It's just breaking down your finances, and even, I mean, this goes back even to the root of Dave Ramsey, I think, financial peace. It's putting percentages towards what you save, what you invest, what you give, and what you spend. And at the end of the day, that could be different for other people. But if you could just start with 10 to 20, if you had 10 to 20 where it's either saved and invested, the thing is a lot of people aren't going to know how to invest right away.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where to invest. And I just got off the phone with the guy about 2-3 hours ago, and he was talking about looking for a place for his mom and setting her up well, but she has this bulk sum of money, and he's worried like 20 years what's going to happen, and that's like I told him, I was like, take 100 of that and just make 12% interest.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that way because I'm constantly thinking of what I know as the investing world that's going to almost be a for certain. But a lot of people don't know that. So I would just say 10 to 20% to start. If you could take 10 to 20%, and that money has to be put away to the side for savings with the intent of investing some, but at least start with savings.
I was gonna say it. One thing it talks about saving more than you earn, and the fact of like not spending 100% of your income, and so that's kind of the opposite side of that. That's so hard. Yeah, that's really great. So you kind of took mine, but that's okay.
Oh man, well I got another one, but it didn't come from this book, but it just made me think about it while we're sweating and all.
Man, I think
I'll explain.
Another, like, something that I would say is, man, I don't know, like, you have to balance risk. I think that would be a good way to say it. Balance risk. Some people, not like me, like to take no risk. And so even whenever they do begin to save, all they want to do is put that into a savings account, and that savings account does nothing for you. It doesn't even beat inflation. So you're actually losing money letting it sit there. Whereas me, on the other hand, I take too much risk sometimes. And so one thing that's been interesting in the Entre Leadership book, talking about leading your life, leading your business, whatever it is that you're trying to lead, he talked about the 4 personality types within the DISC profile. There's a lot of different personality types. But in that, it kind of gave me a perspective like, man, if I could look back to whenever I've invested that capital twice, and I would have, established like, here's my personality type. I am, maybe a little risk happy at times. I'm eager to jump on a new opportunity, but I would have gotten, maybe the other two or three, all three other personality types to weigh out that decision before I move forward.
Right.
I may have received some really good counsel that would have helped me to make a much better, well-rounded decision. Would I have made the same decision or not? Maybe, maybe not. But I would have had more counsel going into it, and I don't think I would have probably made the same decision. I may have used a portion of that capital for riskier investment and a portion of that capital for less risky investment. So balancing risk, and I think a huge way to do that is to get wise. I know we've talked about counsel so many times, but the Bible talks about counsel so many times too. So balancing risk and getting counsel, I think counsel from people who know how to work with money. I think
right. That's good. That's good.
All right, you said you had something else?
Yeah, so we're sweating, but here's the thing. It goes back to one thing that I would say is sweat equity. A lot of people know what sweat equity is. And it's the concept of, let's say you buy a house and you do the work yourself. Well, that's called sweat equity because you're putting in the hard work to basically appreciate the value of the property. So one thing that this book talks about as well is like, if you don't make enough to save, like if you're thinking that way, then get another part-time job. Like you have to find a way. So, but today we were talking to this gentleman, and he was just talking about his daughter making these cards for her wedding. And he was like, she's talking about wanting to save money, and she's taking all of this and putting it onto this and using her Cricut machine and all this stuff. And he's just like, but how much time are you losing by doing that? And that's made me start recently to think that. And so it's like, also think about what you're doing in the day in and day out. Like if you look at your time and if you feel like you need to make more time to invest, well, think about something you do really well. So like, let's say you're and I want to use something more practical, but let's say you're great at mowing lawns. Let's just use that as an example. Sure. Let's say that's something that I think a lot of people are tangibly good at. If you're great at mowing lawns and you know that you can make $50 per lawn, if you go around the neighborhood and mow lawns. Okay, so, but let's say you're not really good at doing, I don't know, laundry. I'm just going to use that example. And it takes you 3 times as long to do laundry than it does to do the lawn. Well, in reality, wouldn't you hire somebody to do the laundry and then you go and do the lawn? Yeah. And what it does is it changes that mindset. It changes that shift of realizing like, if you took your time and you realize your time is more valuable in certain things than what you're doing that's not so valuable, then maybe you pay somebody once a week to do laundry, and maybe maybe that cost is $20 because maybe it's a lower cost type thing, but it takes you longer. And then you're making $50 to do a lawn. So you just made $30 if you looked at it from that perspective. So you traded your time.
That's basically your value. The way our economy works on a very simple scale.
Exactly.
That makes it so efficient. That's what builds wealth.
And then at the end of the day, you're doing something that you're good at. And so you probably you're building value within yourself. You're building the wealth within your confidence, within all those, but then you're also building more money. So if you just say, well, I just made $30. Yeah. Okay. That $30 puts to the side, and you don't even use it, but you got to do something that you enjoyed, and you put down something you really didn't enjoy. Well, and I still struggle with it. Don't get me wrong.
And with that, as powerful, Dave Ramsey quoted John D. Rockefeller in this book, and he said that at some point in his life, later in his life, he said, I guess he was making like $1.50 a week for his family because his dad was out of the picture, and so he gave that money to his mom, and his mom said, "I want you to tithe off that $1.50." And he said, "I'm so grateful that my mom made me tithe off that $1.50 because if I didn't tithe with $1.50, I would have never tithed on my first month." Right. And I think that's so good. It's just like what you said. Like you might be like, "Oh, $30. Like $30 is not building wealth." No, this is habits. How do you form the right habits? And then the bigger opportunities will come. The bigger deals will come. And now you have habits in place. You've created that groove of this is what I do when I get money. And I think that's powerful. And it's cool because I actually wrote my 4th point down before you finish the sweat equity, and it perfectly goes into it. Because you basically said, like, create easy value around you. This is what you're saying. Like, find where you can create easy value. And what I wrote down was money goes towards value, not shiny objects. And I learned this. I'll be very honest. I bought a 2014 GMC Sierra. It was really nice. It had leather seats, heated. It was great. I absolutely, it was like nicest vehicle that I had ever bought. And I bought it on debt. And funny enough, Dave Leagraff, the guy that runs FPU at the church, it was like literally like at the end of FPU that I bought that truck on debt. And the irony of that, Libby didn't even want to go to class that night because we had bought the truck. And I remember I told her, I said, yeah, but we're different because you're going to laugh. I said, we're different because we make a lot of monies per deal. And the interest rate on this truck was like 6%. And I can make a lot more on that money. So I might as well keep my money and, have pay the monthly payments on the truck and put my cash into investments. Well, then I made some investment decisions that didn't pan out so well. And then I had this deficit coming off the budget. It's interesting since then, like in Robert Kiyosaki's book, I actually bought this sticker to put on my water bottle, should be here next week, and a magnet for the fridge. And it talks about how assets, income producing assets, like, so basically your income comes in, your income should buy income producing assets. And those income producing assets should pay for your expenses. And that's how you build wealth instead of just having your income paying for all your expenses. And with that said, nobody is going to, I could be wrong. I feel like it'd be a small percentage of the people that are going to make a decision to listen to this show. Like, I don't think many people are going to come here and go, oh, there's two dudes sweating in a trailer. I'm not listening to this crap. And you know what? If they do, then it's probably, maybe it's better for us in our audience base. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, and we're not even asking for any money for this, but like, we're just purely putting out value. And we know that someday in the future, like, there's going to be a return for all this effort. It's just how it works.
Right.
And so, with that said, we've got to focus on creating value first. Then the money will be produced from that. And if the Wealthy Legacy Journey ever produces money, maybe one day it produces enough money to build a recording studio, but then it was the value that paid for it. It wasn't debt that paid for it, trying to buy these shiny objects for something that may or may not actually ever create an actual return in and of itself.
Oh, that's true.
That's good. So we've given 4 points to save 10 to 20% annually, balance risk and getting good counsel, the sweat equity and creating easy value around you, and number 4, that dollars follow value, not shiny objects.
Do we have 5 you want to do? Or
I think 4 is good. And I would actually.
I got one more.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to get business. Give it quick, and then we'll do the business update.
But I just want to be real with this because this will help you. Is one, obviously it's goals. It's goals based, but set a goal. But I want it to be more practical. So like, imagine if you just said after 1 year, start with 1 year, maybe you go 5 years and then you go 10 years. But if after 1 year, let's say you wanted to save 20 grand. Okay. And then just work backwards. And that's what I would challenge everybody. So like, let's say 20 grand divided by 52, we're going to make it easier and just divide it by 50. And you're going to,
I got a calculator.
All right, fine. 20 grand divided by 52.
20,000 divided by 52.
$4 or something.
Wow. Look at you, man.
No, so 384.62 is what it would be. So you got that's what I'm saying. Like, break it down to
per week.
And then ask yourself, is that realistic? Because don't set a goal, especially with saving, you're not going to maybe be able to just skyrocket that right away. So if that $384 a week is realistic, then aim for it and ask yourself, how do I make $384 a week extra? And then by the end of that first year, then you're sitting there saying 5 years. So maybe it's 100 grand in 5 years. Okay, well, that's 20 grand a year. Same thing, break it down.
Yeah.
But then after year 1, think, I got 20 grand.
Yeah.
How can I make money on this 20 grand? And that's where the investing.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, take a small goal, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and break it down backwards. Break it down by week. If you want to break it down by day, break it down by minute. However it makes you see it visually. It's the joke is like whenever you look at like some of these guys that play baseball. I remember when A-Rod first got his $20 million a year. It was a crazy. It was at that time it was the highest paid contract in baseball, and they used to break it down by per at bat. He would make it was like something dumb. Like it was like $20,000-$50,000 every time he just holds a bat and swings, and he could strike out, he could walk, he could he could throw the bat at the pitcher and get ejected, and it doesn't matter. He's still making that 20 to 50 or whatever it was.
Talk about creating value though. Like he was able to produce value in the marketplace.
Yeah, he definitely did
to do that.
Not
but you know, I think, well, I mean, just the whole industry of the sport and all that.
Right.
Because you know, obviously baseball is not a nonprofit.
It is.
So, but I want to say with that, and like this is something that I've really thought about. I'd like to launch in 2020, probably like 2025. Like I'm creating longer term goals. But I heard this story. So this last week, somebody on Nathan's team, another Nathan, Nathan Mills, and a really cool dude. He went to a tax sale. He told me he spent about 14 grand and he bought 21 properties and the ARV on it somewhere in the ballpark of like 150.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about.
Oh, you were?
I know.
So I've been excited about the idea of this for a while because I've heard of people who do this with houses where they'll buy a house, then they'll owner finance it for like 120% of what it's worth. They'll get a 20% down payment and they'll do like a 10-year note at 10% interest. And I've thought for a long time, I'd love to do that one day when I get to houses. I'd love to do that one day when I get to houses. And the other day, it was probably about a month or two ago, it just hit me. I was like, what if I had taken even 50,000 of that $100,000 that I invested into Algorithmos? And I thought, what if I use that to buy land, owner finance it, and create an income revenue? And you don't want to know what the numbers would be. It was actually really painful. And I was like, dang, I really missed an opportunity there. But what I do want to do is basically, you know, and this goes perfectly with your goal, is I basically said, okay, what if I could save, I think the goal I put together was $12,000 in a year. So that's like $1,000 a month. So the year one is all about saving money. And then you start to go to tax sales. But then I look at that and I go, what if I can take that money? And I think it was like $12,000 or $15,000 that I would save up, start applying that into the market. And then basically you buy these lots super cheap for a couple $100 a piece, way more achievable than like thinking about trying to buy like rental properties.
Right.
And then you can turn around, you can sell them. You can sell them at 100% to a normal person. You can sell them at 120% under finance. You can sell them at 80% for somebody who can do a fast close. Maybe it's 70%.
Sure.
But Nathan Mills, I figured he'd buy them at like 40 cents on the dollar. He told me he's buying these things at like 17 cents on the dollar. And I was like, dude, that's insane. Like you could turn around and sell it for 50 cents on the dollar. It'd be a great deal. You instantly make cash. And so this is something I want to do. I want to do a whole basically like training course on it where I want to take a few years. I want it to be a part of the wealth legacy journey for you guys and literally start with like 10 grand and over a couple years. Like I want to build a whole company. I want to show that it's possible. Start with little and build a powerful business with no debt using Dave Ramsey principles. So there's a lot of cool stuff, but we are almost.
Do we want to do an update real quick? Just quick update.
Yeah, man, I can see it. It's coming. It's getting real. It's like, you know what? I heard saunas are good for you. So this is healthy.
We're getting value. We're getting value just like hopefully y'all are getting value.
Yeah.
We're getting
the
shift,
so
the weight.
Business update. And then I've got one little quick thing to talk about after that. Why don't you lead us off our business updates?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think right now, you know, I'm thinking off the top of my head, you know, so one, we did get a property that we had been trying to obtain for about 2 months now.
Yeah.
And that's what's great is patience. We've been trying to obtain this for 2 months. We initially started at a price of $350. You know, we tried to get seller financing on it, couldn't get that. But after 2 months of back and forth, we finally got it contracted. And it basically it's a good price that we ended up, you know, meeting in the middle at. And at the end of the day, we're currently even in an option. And with that, like Kendall is just having, to me, I just feel like he's been given so much favor because it seems like the processes of him, you know, orchestrating what it's going to look like for us to replat this 13 acres that we've got is just smoothly working along. Good. And that's what we've been hoping for. And this thing has so much potential, and that's a great project. We currently have the Pelican project that we talked about.
Yeah.
And we've decided that we're selling that kind of currently how it's split off. Right. And doing a little bit of rehab to the house just to make it loanable, and realizing that in this case, our value in the upfront time to get it done is going to surpass what the value would be if we did this long haul project on this one. And we've kind of learned that just based off of the hiccups that we might come across.
It
a little more challenging, but at the end of the day, it's still safe. It's still safe, property that we bought, but it's still going to do well.
We've got another one. It's like 2 lots that we're going to try to move. We might even try to double close it using some tactics that.
Yeah. I would love to share. Like this double lot he's talking about. We found this on the MLS. Like this wasn't some secret off market hidden
It's
deal.
sitting there forever too.
And and we had our agent, Randy. He's been awesome. He's negotiated this deal for us. He got it to a price that we really wanted to be at. And once again, this goes back to we understand the knowledge that we have and the value of what we can see,
right,
besides what it's marketed at. And that's how we're going to use this one. So we probably, that one's going to probably be turned around in 2 months.
Well,
we'll be in and out once we close next week.
What's crazy is like by the end of, we started this in like mid-May. By the time we hit our 1 year mark, just with everything we have in the pipeline right now, like we'll be well into the 6 figures. That's if we literally did no more deals.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And
we could,
And I think what I want to say in that though is literally every deal that we bought has been from the MLS. Every deal is a public deal.
And what's great about that is that holds to our foundation. We said we wanted to do that from the start. Now we did we have the off market.
Well, yeah, but those are actually probably our small deals so far.
Yeah.
And we are going to start exploring some more off market, but I think that this built a foundation. I just want people to see that this works. Like there's opportunities right there in the marketplace. They're not hidden.
Yeah.
You just have to know how to look for them.
And then as far as what we're heading to and what we're pushing the gas on right now is just trying to really find those efficient properties on the MLS, because it's very easy to, like we said, throw 100 offers at one time.
Right.
But now we're really trying to dissect it to find the ones that we really, really, really like. And like Kendall said, I want that marinate for a second. I really, especially marinates.
I feel like I'm marinating right now.
the idea that we could not pursue any more acquisitions and till next May would be a year.
And I should say it's the beginning of September. September 8th. So we've been doing it, and we started mid-May. So about 3 months
ish. Yeah, in 3 months. So we have 9 months if we just work the deals we currently had. And I mean, I'll be open to say I think we'd probably be anywhere between, I think we are estimating $300,000 to $500,000 off of just the deals in 3 months of acquiring. And so would that require work over these next 9 months? Sure, but would it be super demanding? Probably not.
Probably a part-time job.
Yeah. And that's what I want you guys to hopefully gain from this, that it's not something that you have to be, super, honestly, super educated, super skilled.
Why did it work though?
Why it worked was because one, I tell Kendall this all the time. I'll say it from my perspective, and I would love to hear your perspective. I believe in it. I'm so confident in our process. Like when we buy the right thing, I believe in it so much that I know it's going to work. And part of that, I think, is just not arrogance, but confidence from the Lord, in the sense that says, I've given you this knowledge, Nathan. I've given you this understanding. Now you need to go and make it happen. And some of these are a little bit more riskier. They take me out of my comfort zone a little bit because they're just a little bit different as far as how the financing and all that stuff works. But that's for me. It worked for me because I knew it was something that I believed in. I have the information to back it up. If it fails, it'll fail because of a complete failure of the market. And I don't believe that that's going to happen. So is it based off of, what can happen in prediction in the future? Sure. But I have confidence in what we're going into, if that makes sense. So,
well, so the only thing I'll say to that is I 100% believe that my home option would work and that our most would work faster.
Yeah.
So belief is powerful, but sometimes misplaced belief hurts.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll say. Nathan's belief and my belief were different. My belief was from speculation. Nathan's what he knows, the skill sets he's developed. So he started as an agent and he learned how to value properties. From there, he did flips. We did flips together. Then we did Sky together, which was a land development process. And from that, we saw that land development could be profitable and what those deals could look like. So we've taken steps from, realtor, you weren't putting any money up. You were just creating value in the market.
Yeah,
now there's more money that's put up, but you have built the skill set to be able to sustain that belief.
Right.
Put a little more behind it. So I would say that that's a large part of why this had worked, kind of going forward. Like one of the next things on my mind is how do we, it's just like what Nathan said about sweat equity, creating easy value around you. I'm like figuring out what can you do to be most efficient with your time. So one of the things that I'm doing is trying to help my team, to pull my team, trying to read books like Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership to become a better leader, the best leader that I can be for the business. And you know, also looking at how do I, as we start looking at next steps, growing our team, what people need on our team, how can I improve mindset, skill sets around what personalities I need on our team. So anyways, I podcast episode for today. I have no idea how I was recording this. It's like super choppy.
Oh, yeah. You got to bear with us with this.
But I really hope the audio is good. And I want to let you guys know that I'm actually going to start reading at least a book a month, if not more. I'm going to get these books. I'm going to publish a little, probably one page, or I'm just going to read on them. So this month's Patreon Ambassador, is great. But at least once a month, I think it's just like Nathan says, small, achievable. This month's going to be Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership, which I'm sure almost done with. And it's super good. But I don't think I'll post something about it. And a couple of other books are kind of in the queue. Going to do great. Rich Rollins, I think. Rich Dad Poor Dad, read again by Robert Keys talking about reading how to make friends and influence people. And you'll read from by Dale Carnegie and a couple other things. So it's been awesome having you guys. I am tired of this sun, so we're going to get AC back on. Thanks for joining us. I hope that you can hear the audio. And with that said, we will see you guys next week on the next episode. Bye, y'all. Let's stop. I hope you're on fire. I hope it's